Hello, Belize.
Hi, Sam.
What are we watching?
Jingle, jangle.
Happy holidays, by the way. Merry Christmas.
Yes, happy holidays. Happy New Year soon.
All of the things that people
Winter
celebrate.
solstice. Yeah.
Yuletide greetings and all that.
Last full moon coming up to 29th.
Oh, that's a fun fact. Me and Belize had a witchy moment on the 21st where we did intentions and we burned things and I singed my nail.
Which is the important step to all
I
of
just
them.
wanted everyone to know if you don't have a scar of the event, did it even happen?
Yeah, what did you think? What were you expecting this to be?
I thought it was gonna be modern time. That's all I was expecting. You told me it was a diverse cast, and that I didn't know automatically off the bat. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then I assumed it was gonna be 2020. You know what I mean? Something modern. But that, to be honest, out of everything in the movie, is what I loved the most. I love the costumes. I love the production design. I love the fact that it's period, but it's not really period. It's like our own fantastical period film because something that's always really bothered me about cinema in general. This is my favorite type of movies, like those types of costumes and stuff, like a Victorian era inspired. But you can never really have fun with that with a diverse cast because the people of color are always like true to the history of what was going on during that time period. So you can never have fun with the costumes and stuff like that because you always have to be true to what happened in that time period. So I love the fact that in Jingle Jangle was like, no, fuck that. This man is black. He's an incredible inventor. He's one of the best in the world. Everyone in this film is going to be African American or something of that nature. They're smart, they're brilliant, they're bright. There's magic, there's singing, there's dancing, there's corsets, and this is our life. This is our world of make believe and pretend. And I loved it.
Yeah. So my roommate was telling me basically what I told you, which is that it's a musical diverse cast. That's all I knew. He had not seen it either. I don't think he still has. Um, I really enjoyed it. I wasn't expecting anything. I didn't watch a trailer or anything like that beforehand. And I gotta say, I think I would have been so much more blown away if I got to see this in theaters. I really think it was meant for the theater. And I think it would have been such a cool experience. Like, I think it was really done a disservice by having to just go straight to streaming, unfortunately. And I think it's like not advertised well at all. Cause I personally, I like in LA, you see billboards. I've seen multiple prom billboards and I haven't seen a single advertisement, and I just feel like it's like a very underrated musical is what's going to end up being, which is really sad because yeah, like you said, I loved a lot of the songs too. I thought were really fun.
I
So
knew that was gonna happen for you. I knew that you were gonna love this music. I was like, one day I'm gonna sit in the car with Belize and she's gonna pull up the Jingle Jangle soundtrack. I see this in my future 100%. But I'm in Florida, dude. I had no idea this movie was happening. There's absolutely no conversation about film in Florida. You know what I mean? Like, I think that I agree with you. Anything musical or big budget of this nature like deserves a theatrical setting. Because there's so many times where I was just on my phone because they're breaking out a song and dance, and I was just kind of like, oh, okay, I'm gonna, you know what I mean? And I hated myself for it, and I was like, fuck, I shouldn't be doing this, or like, I wished I was with a big group of people that we could have been enjoying it together because I saw it by myself, which I think that's why I kind of lost interest after a while because I was like, it's a musical. I know how it's gonna end. So during like the long ballads, it's just music. That's not really. It's so funny. I'm gonna say this. Musicals aren't necessarily for me. Well, actually, no, you know that of me. Like, I'm never gonna run to The Greatest Showman. I'm never gonna run to see Prom. Like, I'm unless I'm in a group setting and then I'll watch it. But I watched this by myself, which kind of sucked. But the songs were fun.
yeah, I agree with you that I do wish I had the chance to see it with my family. I'm definitely going to show it to them because I think that they would really enjoy it, and I think it's a good one to watch with a family or a group of friends. It's funny you mentioned Grey's Showman because I was wondering, that was like a thought that occurred to me. I was like, if I saw Grey's Showman on my laptop screen instead of in the theaters, would it have had the same effect? Like, absolutely not. You know what I mean? Like, I walked away from that theater like blown away, loving it, and then I like came back to the theaters again with my family, made them watch it too. And because it's like a whole experience and you're immersed, and yeah, you don't have your phone, you don't have like anything going on. Yeah, I was alone. It was late at night. I was tired. You know what I mean? Like all those things affect the viewing. And I really got sad about it because I was like, this is so good. and I want to be able to properly watch it, but I don't have that like opportunity to do so right now. But I do think it definitely makes a big difference in how it would have been received. That being said, like definitely check it out, and I guess we would recommend watching it in a group then, from what I'm
And
gathering.
watching this in a group if you're gonna watch this at home, because here's my feeling. Here's my thing with like watching films in groups at home. It has to be fun, it has to be lively, the plot has to be very basic. So that if someone's talking or something, we can all be like laughing and having a good time. Like, oh my god, she's so cute. Like, oh, I love that they're dancing. Oh my god, like that. That for me is like, okay, we can watch this in a group kind of film. Like Shawshank Redemption, don't need to watch that with a group. Don't really want to talk about what's going on. You know, like the others probably shut up. You're ruining the suspense. But this, like, I wish I was in a group setting. I don't know what you have for notes. I have one thing that I would like to talk about, and then everything else I just kind of want to like geek out with you on your notes. But what's on the top of your list? Like what's going on? I know that both of us are analytical.
I have very few notes overall. I really enjoyed it. I love the songs. I thought they were very fun. There were none that I disliked, but I will admit that there's nothing that like got stuck in my head afterwards either. But maybe when I revisit it with my family, who knows?
I just want to talk about the soundtrack really quick with you. This is something I would like to listen to just once through in the car, no distractions, and listen to the lyrics. Because I agree, there was no song that I was like bumping. You know what I mean? It was cute and great, but it was no like there was no standout radio song. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, I don't really have notes about the songs or the acting or like I don't have anything because all of that was great. I didn't have a complaint. Nothing bumped me the wrong way or extremely in the right way. It was all well done. And that was kind of it. So I don't have notes on that regard, but I just want to agree with you that like costume design, production design, everything was amazing in that sense. Um,
Astounding.
yeah. Yeah. So I'm just like, I want to look up how much the budget is at some point for sure. But
Like some expensive ass. Like this is expensive pre-COVID for sure.
yeah.
I would like to talk about one thing then, which is like the root of where I believe this plot came from.
Ooh.
So like I said at the beginning of this film, at the beginning of this podcast, it's really hard to do something fun and period with people of color because fact of the reality of people of color in English speaking societies, it was not fun like this. And like the way that the Jangle was living his life in his young years would not have happened so like openly. But I thought was really freaking cool of the plot with the villain and the protagonist is that how often in our history classes do we hear over and over and over again of inventors being people of color, first of all, and second of all, of those inventions getting ripped off by people. And then we find out about it 300 years later that it's like, oh, that person never, let's do something simple. Tesla and Edison. Edison gets all the credit for stuff that Tesla designed, you know? And so, and we don't think about it until years and years later when all that starts coming out. So I thought it was so dope that like the root of the plot of this is that here is this man, this incredible inventor, this brilliant mind whose like lineage is all female. That was so easily done the way they did that. And he gets ripped off. He gets ripped off by someone else, filled with greed, and his life crumbles. And I just thought that was such an interesting way of doing that because it comes from a root of truth. That is, historically speaking, that comes from a place. Yeah.
Yeah, I really I love that. I love the way that you mentioned that. And I think it's really cool that they are able to do it in that way where they kind of have like some truth to it, but besides that, it's like it's a fantasy realm because I feel like it's also we want those stories as well. We want to just have like people of color just like having fun and just like doing musical numbers and stuff like that, not having, yeah, just being like confined to only playing within like the historical possibilities, realm of possibilities. So I love that. That's really cool. I didn't think of it that way at all. I don't really have anything to add to that, but
Okay. We talk about the fact of like we talk about something that okay, that's just what I want to think about because like all throughout I remember in high school and in like middle school I remember like history class was always my favorite class. So whenever my professors or teachers would bring stuff like that up I would always get so angry and riled up inside. And so when I saw that plot and how effortlessly that was done I was just like holy fuck. Second of all, they modernized this so beautifully by making his grandchildren, not boys, girls. His daughter and his granddaughter are incredible inventors, brilliant ladies of STEM, and so effortless too. And they saw the numbers so easily. Not only can they sing and they dance and they're pretty and they wear their pretty dresses and they're also, oh, I loved his granddaughter. Journey, I loved her.
Yeah, Journey was awesome. The fact that she's the only one whose name I know says how awesome she was. Well, they did make a point of her name a couple times as well, so that helped. I thought it was fun too. Like there were like a little. I think it was also very selective in which roles were cast as white or not, and I really liked that there were like some, but it's like if there's a dance number, there's like a couple, kind of like the flip of what you see in musicals most of the time. It kind of just like flipped in. It's like there's like one white character like in the background.
Well, because to be honest, so like, I'm in book talk, right? Like I'm in the book community. And a conversation that's constantly coming up is that of diversity. And it's so fucking easy to make someone not white. It changes absolutely nothing about their character. And then the constant like argument is like, oh, but it's a fantasy world. That makes it easier. That makes it so much easier. I'm writing my own book and I'm like, oh, well, why isn't this person just like, of Asian descent, boom, done. It changed nothing to the conversation, or like the constant classic is like the token person of color where it's like they're in one scene and then they die in the next scene. Like the Dobby effect, you know what I mean? Like, oh, well, we cared about them, but then they're gone. This movie made it so easy, effortless. This is for everyone. It is everything we love. If you're a Tim Burton fan, you'll love this type of movie, but it's diverse. And that's why I hate the fact that it went straight to streaming because I do think this had like the potential to be a classic. This really did have a potential to be like, let's watch Jingle Jangle during Christmas, like it really was operating on all cylinders.
Yeah, and that's why I am commenting on the advertising money because it's Netflix made both this and the prom. And I've seen multiple prom billboards. So I'm like, I would love to know if I've just missed these billboards. If that's the case, like, and you guys have seen advertisements, like, please comment below if you've seen any sort of advertisement from Netflix, aside from just on its website where they featured it for like the day it came out. Because I really do think that that's like, they're doing it a disservice there by not advertising it the same way.
Every Christmas there is the December. So like when films release, they release on a calendar schedule, right? And like you always want to release on Valentine's Day because then people want to take their dates. You always want to release on December 25th. Families go to the movies. My family used to go to movies every single year. And like you see those big, like I think The Greatest Showman premiered on the 25th. Like these movies premiere on the 25th. It's always huge blockbusters. It's like the summer blockbuster, you don't see Marvel roll out a film and not hear about it. So this movie kind of felt like that big budget blockbuster Greatest Showman type of a Christmas film. And yet I heard nothing about it. If it weren't for you bringing it up or like one of my other friends having watched it, I wouldn't have heard of it. I would have skipped it. I would have been like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Is that an indie film? Like
I think it's very interesting to see. There's a TED talk on it as well as just how the casting is done when it comes to fantasy worlds or anything like that, and how Black characters are cast and the way in which they're cast is all very disturbing. The first one that comes to mind is like Gamora. They make her green skinned, or they like, you know what I mean? Like they make anything that they can do to like not keep the actual color of their skin, basically, when they do cast someone that's diverse.
Princess and the Frog. They're frogs for 90% of the film. Even Soul that came out recently, he's a cartoon character throughout the entire film. So it's like, what are you doing? Like what is so difficult? For me, the argument isn't even like, oh, well, it's a fantasy world. For me, the argument is you have a hard time, not you, these filmmakers and these writers have a hard time seeing or viewing women and people of color as having their own autonomous stories. And you only see white people as having like, well, arcs and something that can develop. But it makes no sense to me because what better character arc comes from the best character arcs come from people with a checkered past or with something on their shoulders. So like I'm Latina, my whole like if I want to like write a good character arc, I look at my mom's story of being an immigrant. You know what I'm trying to say? I don't know. I'm a little bit just over it. And so I'm really grateful that 2020 is pushing forward the narrative of like, we're over it. We're sick of it. Stop making us side characters,
The first note I had, which was like really late on into the movie, but it's the snowball fight is so cool. I just wanted to make a note specifically about that scene out of any other song or number or anything like that. I really like the song that they have and the choreography of the dance that they do in between, like both on the girls on one side and the guys on the other side and everything. I thought that was really fun. And it's literally just that's the note, but I just really liked that scene and the way they did it.
It was fun. It was fun too. I liked anything that had the whole ensemble.
But they did at the end of the snowball fight, which is more of my note, which I think does tie in a little bit more to the historical realm and everything like that. They do have the joke with the police officer where he accidentally hits the police officer with a snowball, and the police officer's like this white man, and he just literally looks at him and goes like, arrest, basically like.
I love that. Like he was like, I'm sorry, I know what I did. Like, you know what I mean?
Right. And I thought that was so it's like it's a fun comical way where you also like know like the underlying tone of like what that all means and everything. So I thought that was just I like the way that they did it where it was making light of it while also calling attention to it sort of thing.
Yeah. I saw more in the realm of this. Like, yes, through us, like, yeah, they're calling it out, but I felt like it was a nice way of them kind of almost showing respect to the police officer. Because like the man knew like if it wasn't a white police officer, then the role of being a cop is supposed to be law and order. So he's like, oh fuck, I hit the guy that's like in charge, arrest me, you know what I mean? Damn it, I know I did something wrong, you know what I mean? But the fact that it was a white cop is like, oh fuck, like this kind of brings more light to something completely side that's the truth of the underbelly of this beast, you know what I mean? This like
Exactly.
relationship between society and that uniform, you know?
Yeah.
I loved my favorite song was I don't know what it's called. It's when the Key and Peele man shows up and he's singing and he's like, "You can't spell magic without G." And I was like, "That's so catchy! I love it. I wish my name started with a G." You know, like I thought that was so It was the only song in the whole film that got my attention. Like I will say, I was watching this movie and I was kind of confused as to how we picked this film for Christmas because there's no romance in this movie.
So that is unfortunately the thing about blind picks, right? This was granted we picked a fifth one after we picked everything according to a theme. I do think that there is love in this, and we do always make a point to mention that Heartbreaker Films is just about love in general, not necessarily romance. So it does still fit into the theme, but I do agree with you. Yeah, there's not a specific big romance through line, which I also kind of love. I think that's fun too because that we don't always have that in musicals either.
The B plot in this is so low. It's like the fact that A, he suffered a tragedy of losing his wife, and B, that woman who's obsessed with him is like the comedic relief. But I do think that the love in this is generations. So it's him and his daughter and him and his granddaughter, and that's what heals. There is a sense of a heart in this, which is I think what we're trying to get at with all of our films.
I really liked, there's a quote specifically that I wrote down that I really liked, that Journey says, which is, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And I feel like that's basically like the whole like point of this film in general as well. Throughout the whole film, it's just basically the idea of, if you think you can do it, you can. And I just really love that it's the part where they're running and then the apprentice is like, what does that mean? But I love that quote, and I think it's I just want to point it out mainly because
Actually, wow.
yeah, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what I guess I'll go into that note as well then. The whole film to me, it was like, yes, it's family love, everything like that, but it's like him needing to love himself again kind of thing and believe in himself.
I think for me it was like he had to forgive himself for what happened. Because like when Journey shows up, my cat is here. It's like I'm a mother of 5. When Journey shows up, he immediately makes her sign a contract. And like, here's the thing: he was betrayed in such a heinous manner by like his apprentice that I think he spent his whole life blaming himself for that happening. And so he constantly had to like outdo it by like proving he can make something bigger and better. But like at the beginning, he just had to forgive himself for that tragedy happening because it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. He led with his heart. He really opened himself to this boy and thought that like, you know, no one would ever hurt me if I'm not going to hurt them. Like that treat this child like family. He even gives him a gift at the end of the film, you know? Um, but I think at the end of the day, you kind of have to forgive yourself for being, it's a good lesson. You have to forgive yourself for being fucked over.
Yeah, and I think what I really like is that the idea is that basically the lesson is you have to believe in yourself. And
Yeah.
a lot of time for Christmas movies, holiday movies, we see the idea of like belief, that you have to believe in something you can't see, that there's no proof of, you just have to believe. And most of the time it's believing in Santa specifically. So I really liked that for this one. It wasn't the concept of believing in Santa, it was the concept of just believing in yourself as heartily as you would in that sort of concept. But like I really liked that lesson for Christmas. I feel like that's not one I see as often in Christmas movies. It's yeah, it's usually something Polar Express. So they're Grinch. There's so many movies that you can like mention. But yeah, so I really like that. I think that that goes hand in hand with that quote. And overall it's just the idea of like if you believe you can achieve it, you will, sort of thing. And I really liked that that was the overall overarching message in the whole thing, at least to me. Um, my only other note, okay, so you brought her up. The older woman that's comic relief. I have to ask because it's fun character, so funny. She's harmless, right? When do those characters switch from being harmless to being toxic?
Oh, like the old maid who
Yeah,
with him and like can't get the time of day and just lives for his attention.
right. Yeah, that woman. Like when does that character become a problem if it's not right now? Is it when we make her a man? Is it when we make the words worse? Is it when we make her have to do physical? You know what I mean? I'm like, it's one of those things where it's like when does it become very clearly problematic? Because right now it's just like sprinkles of it.
My belief, she's my least favorite part of the film. It's not because of anything feminist of me. It's because you could literally take her out of the movie and it's still the same movie. I would have preferred, you know, when we ask at the end of this, like, what would you have changed? I'm just going to tell you what I would have changed now because I'm glad you brought this up. I think they tried really hard to create a B story with this woman, but the B story was with his granddaughter, and they just needed to completely commit to having a different kind of B story, love story. They should have replaced every scene with her with the villain because the only thing I didn't like about this movie is that the villain is in like two scenes. And so he's not a very good agent of conflict, and that's why I got bored. Because a lot of the film is just them singing about like, you know, belief. That's all they was really singing about was just like believe and like let's have fun. It was like a lot of little like moments. But if you removed I think there's three times we're with her. If those three times were like the villain doing like hijinks of some sort, I mean he was also just more fun to begin with. Like that gentleman, I would just would have wanted more of. But I agree with you, male, female, it is kind of annoying. Like oh my God, please be with me. But I will give benefit of the doubt. I have to play devil's advocate to that character. Those people do exist in society. Like the whole, like, oh, why won't he notice me? Why won't she notice me? And she does get her song toward the end where she basically calls him out and is like, go F yourself. Everyone wants me to collect their boxes. You've never put interest in me. Like, when are you going to realize that I am here for you? Blah, blah, blah. So I did like that beat. I just felt that she was so unnecessary to this plot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just it gets me thinking because it's one of those things where I think it's such an interesting the use of art is so difficult, right? Because it's like you want to show these characters exist. And I think I have yet to find a one because there's no one formula way of how do you depict these characters in a way where this shows that these characters exist and it's not okay, and not in a way where it's like these characters are harmless and it's fine and people like this aren't a big deal and that sort of thing. And just yeah, so it's one of those things where I'm like she didn't make me uncomfortable or anything like that, but I just didn't love her. And I just was like, I was just sat there. I was like, is it because is it because she's a woman that I'm okay with it? Or is it because she really isn't doing anything crazy big and he doesn't seem crazy uncomfortable? You know what I mean? It was one of those things where it's like, I don't know how many years she's been pursuing him, anything like that.
Felt like she was the girls that are in love with Gaston and Beauty and the Beast, where they're just like, you know, like ah, but they're not really doing anything. You know what I mean? And you know that Gaston's never gonna get with one of them. They're just kind of like his fans. They just have a crush. And it just felt like she had a crush, but it just wasn't necessary.
Right. But it's one of those things, right, where it's like in that one, he humors them. Gaston actually goes to them. He enjoys it. He likes that kind of like this man is not enjoying this woman's attention anyway. He always like clearly says no. And so it's like one of those things where it's like I'm fine with the character. These people do exist. These women do exist. It's all true. Um, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the way the musical did it. It's just one of those things where I'm like, wait, I personally pay attention to those characters because I'm like, I want to figure out for myself and for our films and everything how to use these characters in a way, yeah, that's effective and that's not detrimental. Um, I don't think this was doing either of the two. I think this was just there, but it just got me thinking in that sense. Yeah.
So what would you have changed? You would have gotten rid of this woman.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would have gotten rid of her. I think the villain should be more in it, and I would have loved a bit of a harder conflict. I think it was kind of easy in a lot of the sense where it was like the robot got taken, they went and got it back. He like came in time, even though he wasn't believing it, like stuff like that. Like it just there was no like big challenging moment for me unless I didn't watch it closely enough where I saw like the shift in him.
No, the big challenging moment happened in the story that the grandmother was telling her kids. The big challenging moment was the fact that this man stole all of his inventions. And then after the fact, there was really no conflict. And I was just kind of like, like that's such an incredible backstory, but the conflict throughout the film was nothing. And then Journey, very smart, not gonna lie, this is a children's movie, you know, did the whole like property of him, Geronimus Jangle. But it just is so I just think I really do. I firmly believe if they just inverted those two characters, like get rid of this lady, she doesn't add to the story, and just focus on the villain, we would have had a really good story. Because everything else was operating on all tens to me. But let me give my rating. This is so hard for me because I feel like production value wise and song wise, I want to give us an 8. But the plot is so simple for me that I want to give it like a 7. But it is a kids family friendly movie. We have to give it that benefit of the doubt. So I'll give it an 8. I'll give it an 8 purely from the fact of like the production value is insane. I've never seen this type of film before with the cast that it is. So like a 7.58 because I would want to recommend it to people. I do think people should watch it, but it's not like let me buy it on Blu-ray. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's really fun. I think it's a great whole love lesson of family, yourself, believing in yourself and believing in your capabilities. And yeah, I think in terms of it being for kids, it being a Christmas movie meant for kids and everything like that. So then also comparing it to other Christmas movies, all of that, I agree that it would be. I think 8 is fair. I don't want to say 7.5 and to yours, but I think 8 is very fair in that whole realm. But if it's like in just the realm of movies in general, I'd probably say like a 6 kind of thing.
I agree with a 6 in terms of like movies overall, but I agree for a Christmas film, 8.
Yeah, yeah. So definitely recommend it.
So
So
those are our holiday hits.
yeah, we're all done with the holidays.
Which is insane to me. Tell everyone the lineup for January and February now.
Yeah, well, what should you tell? Do you want to say the theme for January?
Also, the theme for January. You said the theme for February.
Okay.
Okay. So, hi everyone. So for January, Belize and I will be doing a full Shakespeare month. Every movie we're picking is going to be a Shakespeare adaptation of some sort. So the 4 are going to be 10 Things I Hate About You, She's the Man, Get Over It, and Much Ado About Nothing, the Joss Whedon adaptation.
Ooh, I'm excited.
And then tell us about February.
Okay, we are so excited for February. We have a lot of extra videos planned around this as well that I won't announce yet. But for February, we will be doing the Twilight Saga. Woo!
I'm so excited because I haven't seen these movies since they came out in 2007.
And I haven't seen Twilight since yesterday. So
And Belize read Midnight Sun, and I'm probably not gonna read Midnight Sun, to be honest, before watching these movies. But I was a big Twihard in the books, and Belize was a big Twihard in the movies. So, well,
Yeah,
also the books, but like, I think you read the books the way I watched the movies.
I feel that. I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you guys for watching and for joining us. Please come back next year. Ew, that's such a cheesy joke. Uh, it happens every New Year. Um, as always, it's been beautiful speaking with you. If you feel differently about than anything in Jingle Jangle, let us know. If you have like an argument for why the woman is necessary, please argue it. Please tell us in the comments. I would love to hear another perspective on that type of trope of like the notice me trope. Yeah, please, you got anything?
Yeah, and then if you have any suggestions for next year, if there's anything in general for the year that you would love to see continued or not continue or anything, any sort of suggestion for us as we go into 2021 and continue these videos with you guys. 10 Things I Hate About You was filmed during 2020, so just be aware of that, so none of the new year or holidays or anything will be acknowledged in that video. We did that one very early on, and we have been so excited for you guys to see that one.
As always, my name is Sam,
I'm Belize.
and this has been Heartbreaker Films.
See you next year.